Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Ewan, aka the Draft Monster. We are back with part 2 of relevant rookies for 2024. In particular, we're talking about AFL Fantasy and should you be drafting a few of these guys come early next year? I'd say more than likely yes. Last time in part 1 we did obviously Harley Reid and Kobe McKercher, a couple of the bigger names, but today we're going to talk about a few of the lesser known guys and talk about a few of the other guys that you might have heard of and how they are going to go fantasy-wise in 2024. First up, I have a big name on the draft board that we need to talk about, and that is Daniel Curtin from Claremont and Western Australia. Curtin is a 195cm defender with sublime versatility. He can run through the middle, he can take the intercept marks, just a big-bodied, ready-made player. He had a National Championships fantasy score of about 95 points per game. And he played in the Colts League, in particular in that grand final win, and actually got MVP in that game. So only 17 years of age and already making an imprint in the West. Big name to look forward to in the years to come. He missed the combine because of a hamstring injury, but I don't think it's too much to be concerned about. I think clubs are keen and yeah, he's definitely going to be getting an early run next year. So where will he land after Harley Reid at 1 at the moment? Strong links to North Melbourne at number 2 or number 3 pick in the draft, or 3 and 4 after Jed Walter. Alistair Clarkson has had a few meetings with him already, few months ago, and as recent as this week, a couple of days before the draft. So definitely some strong links to North Melbourne. If not North Melbourne, then, anyone else in the next few picks could take Dan Curtin. He's really going to shape the draft, as Cal Toomey's been saying for a few weeks. And yeah, he is really going to shape the draft. If North Melbourne, for some reason, don't pick Dan Curtin, they could definitely go with a Zane Dersma and a Kobe McKercher. So maybe the hype around Dan Curtin, depending on the club that needs him, or what their need is, he could slide. He could definitely slide. But how far? How far is he going to slide? So after North Melbourne's 3 and 4 picks, there's Hawthorn, the Dogs, there's the Demons. You've got to think by then he'd be picked up. But does he make it even further than that? Can he go as far as the Bombers? Do the Bombers need another defender? GWS, potentially? The Cats? All right in the mix for Dan Curtin, I reckon. Depending on North Melbourne's picks, obviously, he could slide. I reckon he'd be good at North Melbourne. Obviously, they need people that can just get in there and make a difference as soon as possible. So I think Dan Curtin is the man for that. After Aaron Hall, Jack Zeeble, Ben McKay leaving, I think they need that defensive pressure. They really need to get out of the defense. So yeah, Dan Curtin could be a really good fit there. Next up, we have versatile big man Ethan Reid from the Gold Coast Suns Academy and the Allies in the National Championships. Ethan Reid is a new age ruckman. He is similar to Luke Jackson in a lot of ways. He is just incredibly versatile. He is able to run, he's able to get the ball in his hands and make disposals. He runs for days. This kid can run. This kid can run a lot. He has a big tank. In the National Combine, he came in the top 3 in the 2 kilometre time trial. And for a big man, over 200 centimetres, that is pretty unheard of. He averaged close to 100 fantasy points per game for Gold Coast Suns and for the Allies, so pretty similar across the board in both tournaments. He's actually nicknamed the Unicorn because he is just so versatile and he's one of a kind. He really is. As mentioned, he is a Gold Coast Suns Academy prospect, so they will get dibs on him in the draft, using their draft points to pick him up early, I'd say, probably just outside the top 5. And since he is a ruckman, he might take a little bit longer to develop. He does have that versatility about him that really makes him more of a midfielder. And with his size, you could see him definitely getting a spot in the forward line early as well, with Jared Witt still got a few more years left in him. So I don't think Ethan Reid will be jumping straight into the number 1 ruck spot. God forbid. Yeah, you'd imagine he would be getting games early in 2024. And yeah, get those Suns kids going, get them in there. They're pretty much ready-made anyway. So yeah, Hardwick's got some good ones on his hands, and it's going to be really interesting to see what he uses them for next year. Next one I'm going to talk about today is George Stevens, the natural-born leader from the GWV Rebels and Vic Country. Stevens is a big-bodied midfielder who loves to get amongst the contest. He leads by example, as mentioned before, just a absolute leader in every department on and off the field. He averaged over 29 disposals across the Coates Talent League and also over 100 fantasy points as well. So just loves to get in there. He was actually coming back from an injury last year, so they did start him in the defensive 50. So he did have a slow start, and then to still come back in that season this year and average over 100 just goes to show the grunt of this guy. He is just all about that bull life. He gets in there and loves the contest. I reckon wherever he goes in a couple of days, he could be captaining that team in the next 5 years. Everyone respects him. Everyone looks up to him, and it's obvious. But where does he go? Where does he go in the draft is the big question. I reckon he is very potentially a first-round draft pick. But also could slide. He could definitely slide. It's one of the unique talents, I guess I'd say. He's going to make an impact wherever he goes, and he'll make that evident even if he is a slider and people pick him up on a whim. I reckon he's the kind of midfielder the Cats could use. Geelong could draft him and he could take over for Dangerfield in just a few years, you'd reckon. And to have him as a mentor could be pretty good. If he does go to the Cats, Chris Scott doesn't like to play the kids too early, I guess. I mean, he's going to have to soon, so he's going to need some something else, I reckon. He's got some kids there, but George Stevens could really be that difference that Geelong needs, just an absolute unit of a man and someone that's just going to get in there and is ready-made. Exciting man, George Stevens, big-bodied midfielder that's just, going to go far in the AFL in the next few years. The next guy on my list here is the big man from the Murray Bushrangers and the Allies squad from the National Championships, and that is Mr. Connor O'Sullivan. Connor O'Sullivan is a big-bodied key defender, but he can run. He averaged 92 points over the NAB League this season. A big-bodied defender who really controls the play out of the backward 50. He just loves to take intercept marks for fun, has fantastic superior marking sense and ability with that height and strength, and also really good decision-making skills as well. Also, he's huge. He's, 198 centimetres, as I said. He was part of the All-Australian team this year, and he was also MVP in the National Championships. And to become MVP in a team, especially the Allies team that consists of Riley Sanders, Kobe McKercher, Jed Walter, Ethan Reid, Jake Roger, Connor O'Sullivan was MVP. He is a man that leads, he's a man that gets things done, and solid defender, fantastic defender. People are saying he is possibly a top 10 pick in the draft, talent-wise, and I gotta agree with them there. He has just got that IQ about him that teams really desire. I really think he'd be a good pick at GWS, to be honest. Could I see him going anywhere else? Again, could very well end up at Adelaide as well, and after losing Tom Doody in the trade period, Connor O'Sullivan would fit in at the Crows. I reckon he could bring that intercept marking, that running out of the 50, just that IQ to help the Crows. Connor O'Sullivan, keep an eye on him. Keep that name in your head, especially if you need a defender in your keeper leagues for the next 10 years, because he's going to make a big difference. As far as single season leagues going, get him on your bench maybe. Similar to a Nick Coffield type. You never know. He could actually have some say in the fantasy world this year. The next man on my list here is another big man. This guy from Tasmania is Ari Schoenmaker. Ari Schoenmaker played for the Tasmanian Devils and for the Allies squad in the national championships this year. He is a key defender, but also a bit of a winger as well. Can run down the wing, and he has a massive boot on him. Just a huge kick. He averaged 105 fantasy points in the NAB League for the Tassie Devils. And he accomplished this with an insane kick to handball ratio. He had a handball ratio of about 5 kicks to 1 handball per game in the NAB League. It just makes sense when he has such a big kick on him. This guy can kick the ball 60 meters with ease. He took a lot of kick-ins for the Tassie Devils. That would probably justify that kick to handball ratio. He'll be taking kick-ins for years. He's a tall man and has a fantastic intercept mark on him as well. A lot of teams would want someone like Ari Schoenmaker bombing the ball inside 50 from God knows where. It could be a late first round pick. Could definitely be a bolter in this draft. Could see him in a similar case to Connor O'Sullivan. I could see him playing at GWS, helping them with cement their defense a bit more. I could also see him playing at Carlton or West Coast or North Melbourne, since North Melbourne have a plethora of picks and could just use one on Ari Schoenmaker. Why not, Alistair? West Coast as well, just because West Coast, they need that defensive help. They've lost Shannon Hearn, they've lost a few players, and they're really going through that rebuild phase. So I could see West Coast in the second round also picking up a player like Ari Schoenmaker. But is he going to make an immediate impact next year? Not sure if he'll play too early on in the season. Definitely one to keep an eye on, because again, that big left boot that he has, 60 meters with ease, he kicks the ball. A team can use that. A team will use that, and not sure which team that's going to be, but keep an eye on Ari Schoenmaker. That's a name to keep an ear out for in the coming years for sure. All right, next guy here is a little bit more Western Australia representation, and we're talking about Clay Hall from the Peel Thunder and the Western Australian squad from the National Championships. Clay Hall is an accumulating, big-bodied midfielder who just loves the contest and can run and run and run. Yeah, he averaged around 108 fantasy points in the National Championships, and that was with about 27 disposals a game, 3.5 marks per game, and 5 tackles per game as well. So really does a bit of everything and loves the contest. He was going up against players like Riley Sanders and Harley Reid head-to-head, and was really holding his own in the competition there for the Western Australians. He was also in the All-Australian midfield for the National Championships, and he was the only player in the midfield that wasn't from the Allies. So just goes to show that talent that the Allies have, and Clay Hall right amongst that talent. Really a good accumulating and impactful midfielder. He's likely a second round draft pick come this week, possibly even a third round. He could slide a bit, but keep an eye where he lands. I could definitely see him being a Western Australian landing at the Eagles. They could just like that homegrown talent. But the Eagles have 2 picks in the second round. Also, the Tigers, the Bombers, and the Lions at this moment have 2 picks in the second round. And all probability's sake, could be teams Clay Hall could land at. It would be pretty interesting if Harley Reid went to the Eagles and then we saw Clay Hall with him there. The Eagles have a lot to look forward to, I think, in this draft after Harley Reid. A lot of talent coming out of the West this year as well that is unheard of, or not unheard of, but hasn't been talked about quite as much in all the hype that's been happening, but Clay Hall is definitely a name that you should be keeping on your radar. If you're after a midfielder that's going to accumulate, get the ball in his hands, gets his hands dirty, Clay Hall is a man that's going to do that for the years to come. Whether he gets his break early in the year or later, keep him in your mind. Get him late in your keeper league drafts and in your single season leagues. If you hear the name Clay Hall, get onto the FA and pick him up, because I don't know if he'll get drafted much next year. Probably in 2025, I'd say. All right, next guy off the rank here is Keenan Brown from the Oakley Chargers and Vic Metro in the National Championships. Keenan Brown, with a Y that is. Keenan averaged 24 disposals, 4 marks, 5 tackles, and 97 fantasy points per game in the NAB League this year. He was part of the Coates Talent League Team of the Year this year. He's just a consistent, contested ball winner in the midfield. He loves to tackle. I think he could be a handy addition to any midfield with his inside and outside grunt and his run and carry. And he could be a Demons father-son selection, whether they can wait on him and just pick him up for nothing later. If not a Demon, then possibly I could see him being a Saint in that midfield, or even a Tiger. I reckon the Tigers could definitely use an inside-outside adaptable type like Keenan Brown. But no, more than likely I will see him heading to the Demons, I'd say. 75% chance he will be a Demon by the end of this draft. Fitting into that team could take a little bit to crack into, I'd say, pending injuries and all that. The appropriate pick in a draft this year, maybe not in single season leagues, but definitely keeper leagues. I would be keeping an eye on Keenan Brown. As we keep going now, we're going to talk a bit about a South Australian talent in Kane McAuliffe. Kane McAuliffe is another big-bodied midfielder, possibly the most highly touted talent coming out of South Australia this year. Yeah, another big-bodied midfielder that just loves the contests, loves to get his hands dirty. Was averaging 8.5 tackles per game for North Adelaide this year, and anyone that tackles that much is always on my draft books. Just has that grunt about him, that real just wants the ball. And doesn't care how he's going to get it. He's just going to get in there. He's going to get that ball. Or he wants to get his hands on the guy with the ball, obviously, as well. So one or the other for Kane. I think he's had some ties to St Kilda in this draft. I think they've had a couple of chats with him. But I think he is just happy to get drafted and get to work. And that's the mentality I want to hear from a draftee. Not caring where they're going, just want to get going. And that's what you want to hear. St Kilda could probably use, as I've said previously, and a few players so far, St Kilda need that extra midfield grunt, I think. So I think he would be a good fit there. Obviously, coming from South Australia, you'd think he would love to end up at Adelaide or Port Adelaide. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if they've got, especially Port Adelaide, don't have any kind of picks in this draft. I think they've got one late one. Adelaide has a few other picks, but a bit more early on in the draft, I think. So they could miss out a bit later on someone like Kane McAuliffe. Keep an eye on him. He should get drafted. Where he gets drafted is the big important question. And will he make a difference this year? Another thing to keep track of this preseason. Keep an eye on Kane McAuliffe. And the final guy I'm going to chat about today is definitely one that has gone under radars and will potentially not even get drafted. So it's a real speculative one here. But this kid is talented. I'm talking about Northern Knights big-bodied midfielder Christian Ferranato. Played for the Northern Knights, so didn't even play at the National Championships, wasn't part of a squad in that regards, but did play for the Northern Knights and played really well. And fantasy-wise, dominated. He averaged 109 fantasy points per game for the Northern Knights in a consistent season. I think it was 28 disposals, 6 tackles and 4 marks per game for Ferranato in 2023. Hasn't had a whole lot of hype this year, having not really been at the national championships, not really part of the academy or anything. So really one that's very speculative from my point of view, but you can't deny that fantasy prowess that he showed in the NAB League last year. He does have that super athletic build about him. He does have a basketball background, and as we all know, basketball backgrounds are, well, they can really work out at AFL level sometimes. He accumulated a lot of the ball, as I said. I think it was just his impact at the coalface and, yeah, impactful plays. They kind of let him down, but it feels like he's someone that could learn that and could elevate his game and, you know, be a star at AFL level. And I would actually really like to hear that name called out by commentators as well. Christian Ferranotto. That would be a bit of fun. But yeah, 109 fantasy points in the NAB League as a fantastic inside midfielder. One name that, yeah, might not get called out in the week to come, but if you do hear that crazy name, keep him in your mind. And yeah, the years to come, he could find that AFL standard and get up there amongst the best. We'll see. But yes, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and found it insightful or helpful in any way, please remember to hit that like and subscribe button, and remember to follow me at Draft Monster on Twitter or X. And yeah, stay up to date. We're going to get into it now. Really excited for this preseason that's ramping up, and yeah, post-draft, we're going to have a bit more analysis into where these draftees could be in your fantasy teams for 2024. So, thank you again. See you in the next video. Bye.